Okay,
It
so
just
hello.
told me that you're recording.
Sorry?
It just told me that you're recording.
Yeah.
How do I get out of that screen? Jesus, sorry. Totally stuffed it up now.
That's all right.
It's just got, all I can see now is that it's being, it says got it. Sorry, Jen, I'm so not tech or
No, it's all good. It's all good. You happy to roll with it like that, or do you want to restart?
No, I'm happy. It's all good.
Good. So welcome. This is Natalie. Now, do I say this correctly? Ubl Grant? Is that how you say it?
It's Ubl Grant.
Ubl. Oh, okay. Why have I got UBI? How do you spell that?
UBL.
Ah. What's
And it's always a wonderful talking point. Has been my whole life.
Yeah.
It originates in Czech Republic.
That's amazing.
So my grandfather was a Czech man, and so Ubl is how we say it, and I've been spelling it and pronouncing it for everybody forever, so it's just normal. It's all good.
Oh, how fascinating.
It is. It's good. I go by that online because there's a very famous gospel singer, Natalie Grant. So if anybody Googles me, they'll never find me.
Right. Got it. Well, welcome, Natalie. How do I say it now? Ubl Grant.
Perfect. Yes.
And
thank you so much for having me here.
That's okay. It's been a while since I've done been a few weeks actually since I've done an interview. So just doing them for fun and just really getting some insight into all the different way different healers are out there, how they work, facilitators, whatever people want to call themselves. Sometimes healer can be a funny word. Means different things to different people. So I'll just introduce Natalie. She's a Reiki master teacher, has her own Reiki workshops and share circles, and I know you've got a Thursday meditation group, which is like a share circle. So I'm just going to dive straight in. Actually, before I do, I'm going to ask you to probably do a better job of introducing yourself.
Yeah, I have to say it's so funny because it's taken me years to be able to say, I teach Reiki. You know, one of the weird paths that happens when you go on this journey of becoming somebody who holds space for people is trying to label what it is you actually do.
I like that, somebody who holds space for people. That's so cute. That's funny.
Well, for me, that's exactly what we do as Reiki practitioners. We get really good at being in the present moment. So we get really good at holding a frequency that allows a person to do their own healing.
Hence why I mentioned healer is a funny word, because often people think that the healer is healing them and they are facilitating and holding the space, but actually, yeah, you are healing yourself.
Yeah, it's like you're able to be in kind of or help them get to a particular state of consciousness that maybe they've never been able to reach before because nobody has been present with them in that way before, and their body actually responds really well to that. So, or all our bodies respond really well to that. So, yeah, and I think the aim as what people call it, a healer, is actually, and this is just my opinion, but I actually think the aim is to get really good at getting out of your head chatter and observing your now moment purely, like really being present with all five senses and just being able to sit with a person and feel into what you notice. And you might not notice it when you're busy checking your phone and checking after the kids and figuring out what your shopping list is and all the rest of it. That's not presence when you're got your hands waving out in the air and you're thinking of something else. That's actually not true presence. And that takes time to develop. So it's taken me years to develop that, and I think I still continue to develop it. I don't think we ever stop learning, and I don't think we ever get to a point where we've completely mastered anything. You're just mastering the next thing until there's something else that comes along.
Yeah, I agree. It's never ending.
It is. But yeah, so for me, I've been doing Reiki for over 20 years. 1999 was when I was attuned to level 1 Reiki. I did that with a lady named Dorothea Saggi in Victoria, and she was an amazing lady. She's still an amazing lady. I'm pretty sure she still teaches. And then I learned my level 2 and masters in Yasui, Seishem and Karuna Reiki with Richard Giacomis, who now goes by the name Plute Giacomis, and I'm still getting used to calling him something different. But he was a very good teacher, and he helped me to really understand how to get out of my own way and be able to just be in the now and really be present. So I loved learning Reiki. It changed my life. It completely turned me from being a very self-centered, angry woman into being somebody who's a lot calmer these days, who has, I think for me now, I witness myself in every situation that I'm in. Sometimes I'm happy with what's occurred and sometimes I'm not. And so when I'm not happy with what's occurred and how my contribution to that has gone, I go away and I do the work. So I look into, why that happened, how it felt, work on emotions, use my Reiki to come back to presence and seek the answers that I need to solutions in the present now. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, I definitely, I've been to, I think, one of your Thursday gatherings, and recently one of the little healer facilitator workshop-y things you did. And
it was so good having you there.
Yeah, it was fun. But I think what I love about you is this sounds a bit wacky, but I believe in, you've got your good ego and your not so good ego. I don't think ego in itself is a bad thing. I think you can make it work for you. But what I witness with you,
I agree.
is there is no, well, from what I see, like, of course we have our moments, but I don't see an ego with you, a negative ego. You're very much a teacher as much as you are a student. I think that's what keeps you so beautiful and balanced. You're very still always wanting to learn. And I feel like when you stand there and you speak like that amongst the group, I think that's what captivates them, because people are funny. Humans are funny. They think they want to go to a guru or someone up there or someone that's better than them. But there isn't really that. It's more just this person is accessing, higher frequencies and coming into their own more, and that's available for everyone. And I think you demonstrate that really well. And I think people look at it and they see it. I don't think they always know how to grasp it, but it's there. They see you doing it, and it's very likable. It's because you're there for, okay, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but to me it's almost like you're there for yourself in a wonderfully selfish way to grow and to share. And that really comes through a lot. And I think that's how we're meant to be. We're there for, what we can learn and how we can grow and what we can share, and learning along the way with others. It's very hard for me to put into words, but yeah.
It's because it's a feeling, Jen. How do you put a feeling into words?
I know, everything's a feeling. You're right.
Isn't
I tell my clients that all the time. It's all about the feeling.
And it is. It's hard when you want to share what that is for somebody into words. But I know what you're talking about, because you're right. I show up for myself.
Yes, I love that.
I giggle about that because everyone else thinks differently to that. But I had a really huge aha about that concept when I did my speaking workshop with a lady named Karen Smith, because she, or when we were in that class, she just said, just speak about something you know a lot about. Like, everyone needs to hear your message, right? And say it the way you just want to talk about it. Don't worry about what the person needs to know about you. Just talk because you enjoy speaking about it.
Yeah.
Right? And it was like, oh, I'd never done that. Throughout whole of my school, even when I was creating art, I was always creating art for somebody else, never for just the enjoyment of painting or drawing or doing anything. It was always for somebody other than me. And in that, that was like, there was a lot that happened in that particular workshop. I had a lot of self-insight happen and a lot of emotion and all sorts of stuff, but so much gold came out of that. So from that point on, I started to share Reiki in my classes with people from that perspective, and my whole way of teaching changed. I went from being very, I have to teach it the right way, to I'm just going to share what I've learned and what I like about Reiki. I'm going to talk about it from that perspective, and whether you enjoy that or not is really none of my business.
I agree.
This is how I like talking about it. This is the stories that have changed my life. You know, whatever, how it lands with you is seriously none of my business. And I'd never operated from that perspective before. And it was so freeing, because I started actually enjoying what I did. And it wasn't hard anymore. It became easier and easier and easier. So I always say that to my students when they're coming up with what, you know, workshops they want to run and groups that they want to get together and bring people together in group. I always say to them, do the thing that you enjoy. Don't try and copy me. Don't try and copy somebody else because they look successful on the internet. Try and do something that you authentically really enjoy, and are just going to do that even if no one shows up.
Yeah.
And then the next thing that you'll learn something from that, and then the next thing you do, you'll do something else, and then you'll find your path, because you're doing the things that light you up, which put you in a higher frequency, which in that road of doing that, you actually find yourself, all of a sudden you wake up one day and go, oh my God, I'm living my best life.
That's it. It's very simple. It is. When you find ways to enjoy things, then all the nervousness goes away. Because you're right. People think, oh, I've got to, what do I talk about, or what do I say, or what do I do? And it's like, forget about that. That's all external. Work from the inside of, well, what would it feel like to enjoy giving your speech or presenting something? It's all about enjoying it.
Enjoyment, absolutely. And doing it for the right reasons. Like, you share what you know because you got benefit from it, and when that happens, that feeling you're talking about, when you're listening to somebody who is authentic in what they're sharing, it's a feeling, it's not the information.
That's correct. Yeah.
And that's the thing I think people resonate with, which ends up creating their own. They'll take that information or that feeling, and that'll shift something in them, and then they'll know something more about themselves they didn't know before.
Say that again.
So it'll shift a feeling in them, and the words that person has said changes something in them, and they actually know something about themselves then that they didn't know before.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think is the most healing, when you hear words coming out of someone else's mouth. When they land at the right frequency, you hear it in a way somebody else might have said it to you 50 times. Same thing. That's why you get so many girlfriends that do the full eye roll, right? Going, I've been telling you that.
Yeah.
And then you go finally, and you actually hear it because it's delivered in a way that you're meant to feel that learning, and it's like it just sets the dominoes off, and locks in.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, for me, the big change in mindset happened in that class, and I needed that. which then helps me to then do what I do with when I teach, which I think makes me a better teacher. I actually enjoy me way more now than I used to. It used to be stressful to be me. Do you know?
Yeah.
I'd be concentrating the whole time, trying not to get anything wrong, you know, just and with Reiki and using all the tools that I learned, because there's so many good stuff you learn at the different levels. And then I learned further than that and learned, say, Shaman Karuna, and I did Reiki Grandmaster and Goddess workshops, and you name it, I've done it. And been to lots of different healers as well, because I'm always interested how other people do what they do. A bit like why you're doing the podcast, because you like listening to how do you do that and how do you get to that. And I like getting into people's minds and figuring out how they think, because that's the stuff that I think makes me a better person. That's my path, to try and work stuff out.
Yeah.
So yes, I do. I enjoy running my workshops. I've always run them the way that I feel comfortable doing it. I used to do meditation retreats, but I don't have time to do that anymore. I love doing it when I was drawn to doing that. But at this stage, it's definitely sharing Reiki with the world, because just the basic mindset concepts that they learn in those classes can change their lives. And I think because I've learned what I learn, and that's what I try, that's the message that sort of runs in the undercurrent of standing at a table and waving your hands around. You know.
So now, putting you on the spot here, can you pluck something up from your mind of an experience that you remember that was sort of really like either woo-woo or quite cool, or changed your life or someone's life in terms of, you know, doing a healing session with somebody that you found quite powerful?
I think for me, there was a big shift when I learned the content in the Reiki teacher training, where we learned past life retrieval and emotional liberation processes. Because in my, in the quest of learning how to hold space for people, you kind of get quite egotistical. Like you, without meaning to, you come to this understanding that, oh my gosh, all of a sudden I've got all these 5 senses that are bringing in all this new information that I didn't have access to before. And I got to the point where I could actually see people's past lives. I could tell you all about them. I can see and sense when, you know, relatives come in and want to chat to the person. I got to the point where my ego loved that, because it was a lot of the time very accurate, and I was able to bring through really good information. But what I noticed was that it was me still telling them stuff, you know. So I think for me, the shift came when I learned the other processes of actually, again, deepening that knowledge of what are the right questions to ask a person so that they can actually experience it themselves. What visualization could I take them through that they're going to actually see their loved one on their own without me having to tell them about it? What visualization could I take them through that's going to help them to release trauma without having to relive the trauma, especially me telling them about it? I mean, seriously, I think back to how I used to run sessions and I'm like, oh my God, Nat. Do you know? But it's part of the learning, which is why we always have the right people come to us that are supposed to have those experiences. But then once you sort of deepen your knowledge again and get to see how profound the changes can be when the person experiences it themselves. You know, I had a young girl come to me who had lost her father when she was like young, and she was able to talk to him, and that was just such a powerful session, and the healing that came out of that was incredible, you know, for her. And it was for me kind of a changing point of actually getting to see and feel, because I can feel the energy that happens when it shifts. The feeling that went with that was like, oh my gosh, you could have told her everything and it wouldn't have had this effect, you know?
Yeah.
And that was when I realized that it was this other layer to really holding space for somebody. It's such a deeper experience. So there's so many now, you know, that come to mind, and then it's gotten even more wacko. As you say, I think when you get good at it, and then you can really just keep your ego out of it and just let them bring through what they need to say to themselves. You can see it in their face. They'll say the words out loud and then their face shifts like, oh my God, did I just say that? Do you know?
Yeah.
But I'm at the point now where sometimes, not always, depends how deep a person goes into the session, but I'll actually have higher dimensional beings that will talk through the person and actually tell me what I need to know about what's happening in the world. So that's interesting. So I keep a lot of notes.
Okay, that is interesting. So that just sounds like it's going in another direction for you. Like, to me, that sounds like that's a direction that you're going to be going in, perhaps.
Yeah, well, the information that's come through always then translates into my immediate reality. So often what I hear on the table, I'm actually supposed to share some of that in my Reiki classes with the students. It's like this, we're all evolving at such a huge rate at the moment, and the information that we need to know, it's like we've hit a frequency where it's okay to know that now, and it's okay to talk about it out loud without sounding like a complete nutcase, you know. So the underlying thread of what that message that's sort of coming through now is that the body is the goal. We've got to actually yes, we needed to learn how to meditate. Yes, we needed to learn how to connect to our intuition and our five senses, and we needed to learn how to be in the present moment. And you don't have to do my job to be able to do that. You can do all sorts of there's lots of ways to go up the mountain. But as a collective, we've gotten to a point now where we've learned how to do that. Now we have to bring that into our physical presence and work with the physical body to help it feel comfortable in the present moment. Because a lot of the time we avoid stuff. So we'll have a feeling come up and we go and eat a bar of chocolate, or we'll have a feeling come up and we go and play tennis or go for a run or do something to distract our mind, right? We'll have a feeling come up and we are supposed to just, you know, sit and meditate and try and blank out what's coming in, the chatter, you know. What we're supposed to do now is, and this is what the entities have been saying, is we're supposed to come into the body with what's happening and actually talk to our bodies, actually listen to what is it that it's having come up. Does it actually need to go to work today, or does it need a rest? Does it need to actually work out and need you to get up off the couch? You know, does it need you to have that coffee, or do you need to have water? Are you somebody that needs to be eating gluten or not? You know, like listening. And there's a lot of people that have had food intolerances and all the rest of it, to give them this message to actually listen to their body. And there's the outcry that, oh, we're supposed to change something, like we're you know, this is some evil thing trying to attack us, when in actual fact all of it is a tool to actually get us to be in our bodies and listen to our bodies. It isn't our enemy. It's here to help us. And you've actually come in with a contract to help this particular body in this particular family lineage overcome trauma from the past, and to feed it what it needs to be fed. And we're all figuring that out, whether you do woohoo or not. Like, that's the thing that's really interesting. You know, you had what happened with COVID-19, and whether you were going to have the thing or not have the thing, it doesn't matter whether you did or didn't. What matters is that in that moment, you're listening to what your body wants, you know? And it was another great tool to be able to get you to actually feel into what is the right thing for my body, my vehicle. And just because you want to do something doesn't mean that I have to do something, you know?
I guess the tricky part is, but regardless of what it is, whether it's a bar of chocolate or something else, it's the question begs, well, how does the person know it's coming from their true source, or if it's coming from their programming, or if it's coming from somewhere else? You know, like
it's a great question.
Yeah, being centered and clear, and then to get your then to make your decisions. So there's people out there all the time making decisions outside of themselves, thinking that that's right for them and true for them, when actually, and it will be, because that's the choice they make, but you're making your decisions or choices out of alignment, and they're not even paying attention to that.
Yes, and so this is the thing. So the message has been really clear, is show people how to ground their energy in the body. They've got to be in the present moment. They have to be listening to the present moment and in the now. All of the knowledge that they've collated and all of the life experiences that they've had have happened because they're learning something. They're not a victim to it. It's happened because you are now going to operate differently because that happened to you. And so the focus will shift, and as we get older, for a lot of people it already has, the focus shifts away from blame to, okay, yes, that happened, and so now because that happened, I do this differently. And sitting with the empowerment of that rather than the disempowerment of continually giving their power away. So what they're talking about, the entities, they're talking about this quantum leap in consciousness that's happening. And so whether you're aware of the stuff or not doesn't matter, because there's enough people now on the planet that understand this idea of embodiment and being in the present moment. Because when you're there, you cannot veer from what your internal compass wants you to do. It's like you'll get to a point where you'll get sick, and if you keep ignoring it, you'll get an illness. If you keep ignoring it, you'll be super angry all the time, maybe sad and depressed. But as soon as you sit with it and acknowledge that it's there, then the answer will be there. It's just being brave enough to do whatever it is that you're fearful of doing. But as soon as you can step over that threshold and sort of move beyond the comfort zone, that's where relief happens, you know. And I've watched people move, uproot into state they've moved. I've watched people leave long-term jobs that they would never have done that, do you know, and then they cannot believe how much their lives have changed because they've chosen to do something that was outside of their comfort zone and listen to what their bodies have been telling them that they need to be doing. So it's happening. It's amazing, and it's going to be quicker and quicker. That's why time's speeding up.
Definitely.
So they've said it's because eventually there just will be no time. So it's happening at a rate because a lot of people.
It feels like there is no time sometimes. It feels like that already.
Well, I just had this week a couple of clients and students have all said the same thing. They were doing what they would normally be doing that would take them only like an hour or a couple of hours, and then it's like they come out of some time warp and it's 5 hours later and they don't know what happened to the time, you know. So, and like I like searching for similarities. So when I hear something a few times, I pay attention. Because if I learned the hard way that if you don't listen to what's coming in, and there'll be sentences for me that are the exact same sentences that come out of different people's mouths.
Yeah.
So when when I hear those, I pay attention to what it is they're actually saying. So this week, that's been the theme, is that lost time, which is fascinating.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's wonderful. Thanks for sharing all that. I want to, just being mindful of the time here, watching the time. Speaking of the time.
I could talk with you forever.
I know. So I want to get a grasp on what the soul means to you.
Okay. What does the soul mean to me? So for me, it's the aspect of the universal energy, like the spark that's come from the whole. And it's an expression of the whole. So the soul aspect that's sort of residing in the physical body, that is me, is the observer, is the one that sees it all, and is the one that is navigating. And I think from children, historically, we were taught not to listen to that, which is where I had that challenge of doing for everybody else and not for me, which caused that discord between the physical and the soul, because I could definitely feel it. And I think that we
doing that still.
And I think when you finally connect to that part of you that can witness all, that is endless, like it's like we are timeless. It's not like when we leave this vehicle, it's ended. I've done too many past life regressions now to know that that isn't true. Because they all go to the same place. They don't know each other, but they all say the same things, right? So there has to be something to that, you know, down to even what they call where they go. You know, it's fascinating. So yeah, for me, if you can, I think if I give you a visual, so what it looks like to me is you've got the sun, and then you've got the little sun rays that come off the sun, and so our souls are those sun rays. So although we look like we aren't part of the sun, we actually are, because that ray is endless. And it goes on infinitely, because how long there's a piece of string. So we're all, when they talk about us being one, I truly believe that you are an aspect of me and I am an aspect of you. And I've seen that now. And no matter what your path is, why you've come here, and what your contract says you're going to do, you still have free will while you're here. You can change that contract. I mean, we'll just start again. It's like, okay, that ended, let's go back and we'll try another go. You know, so we've done this many times.
If you were to put it into feeling words now, what does soul feel like to you?
What does it feel like for me? Okay, so it makes my heart feel expanded. It actually helps me to connect to that kind of, that space in your chest. It's like love, like unconditional, full embodiment love. And when I can sit in that space, I know that I've overcome whatever the trauma or challenge that the physical body has had. Because I know what it's like to have wanted to sit in that, but I've had a physical response that has prevented me from doing that. So that becomes my work, is if I can't sit in unconditional love in a particular situation, then I have work to do. So I will then go and use all the tools that I've learned to try and work out what my body needs to know, so that the next time I'm put in that situation, I can connect to that soul aspect of myself and truly sit in unconditional love. Yeah, so it feels like love to me. Yeah,
that's beautiful. Okay, we've just got a few minutes left, so let me see, we've covered pretty much most everything. Is there anything you wanted to quickly share before we finish up? You've done quite well. You've sort of covered the whole thing.
Oh, good.
of what I wanted to have a chat with you about. So, yeah, is there anything that you wanted to add to that?
Look, I love talking about this. I feel like that the more times and more opportunities that we as humans get to come together and speak from our hearts, the quicker we are able to overcome pain and trauma and hurt and fear, and we can actually come to a peace that is deep within us. And that's where, like, I get really excited that there's lots of people that are now creating groups. You know, I'm on the Sunshine Coast. When I first moved here 16 years ago, there really wasn't a lot of people that you could find that were doing group work where you meditate and you might do a card reading, or just coming together and just speaking about anything other than gossiping about your friends, you know. And now we are so lucky living here because everyone's doing it.
Yeah.
So, you know, any given weekend or even weekday now, if I feel like I want to go and get together with a bunch of weirdos like me, then I got choice.
Yeah.
You know? And that makes my heart sing, because I know that the way forward is for humans to get together, male, female, non-binary, whatever you want to call it. Just get humans in the same space and get them loving each other again, you know, and don't let fear separate us.
Yeah. So before we run out of time, where can people find you on social media, and even, you know, reaching out if they want to come join your group?
Yeah, so to be honest, I'm going to try and spend more time on technology going into the future. Instagram at the moment is probably a great place to get me.
What's it under? What's your name?
It's Light of Wellness Reiki School. Right.
I'll put a link in the bottom.
Yeah, beautiful. And an email, so info@lightofwellness.com.
Perfect. Well, thanks for joining me today, and it's been fun, and we might catch up another time.
Sounds great.
Awesome.